Welcome to Airgun Action, a fortnightly show dedicated to airgun shooting. In this week's episode I'm going to be heading out hunting with the FX Panthera, as well as taking a look at a more affordable PCP in the shape of the Crosman Icon from Rangerite. So let's get cracking and see how that Panthera cuts it out in the woods. Right, I'm really excited about today's shoot now, not least because I've got the FX Panthera out with me. Now, before any of you say it's a gun that's geared towards target shooting, you are right, but I've had it out on the range, I've had a great time shooting it, and I'm convinced that it will do the job that I need it to do today. And to be honest with you, it's such a pleasure to shoot. I just wanted to get out into the woods with it. I won't go into loads of detail about its functions and features. We've reviewed it recently, so have a look at that episode if you want to find out more about this gun. But I will just say very quickly, I've paired it with a Helix scope from Element Optics. It's the 6-24x50. Now this scope produces pretty nice sharp images through the scope cam, so I'm hoping that we can get some decent footage through that today. The scope is held on as ever with Sportsmatch scope mounts. Now, aside from the kit, another thing I want to really demonstrate today is how you can use feeding stations without having to pay for the feed in them. Now, I know I talk frequently about using feeders to attract grey squirrels. It works brilliantly, the only problem being that it can get expensive, especially if you're loading them with peanuts. Now, if you share your permission with a game shoot that's got pheasant feeders out, you can obviously enjoy the same sort of attraction as you would around your own feeding stations, around their feed hoppers, without having to spend a penny, because the gamekeeper is paying to keep them loaded. So the keeper here is absolutely fed up with grey squirrels, not only stealing feed but also chewing the feeders, damaging them, and obviously on top of that there's the usual damage that they cause to trees and to other wildlife. So we're really eager to get on top of them and keep driving them down here. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to get into the hide and we'll get on with that. Well, that is what the feeders are put here for. And it's nice to see a pheasant taking advantage of this one, but if I'm honest, I would much rather see a squirrel there right now. Well, it was all going on then. There was a robin underneath the feeder and also a deer feeding behind the drum when that squirrel came rolling in. Now, I haven't actually put an additional silencer on this gun, although it is threaded for one, and it has got a bit of a muzzle report to it, but the deer didn't even spook. Well, that said, it's just trundling off now, which is probably down to the sound of my voice. So the muzzle report and the sound of the impacting pellet didn't really spook that deer at all. Anyway, I'm going to be quiet now and hopefully we'll get some more squirrels. There's another one. That one went straight over. Then I thought it was out for the count. Just as I came off of it, it started to flip about and I thought it was going to need a quick follow-up shot, but by the time I got back on it, it's actually expired right by the base of the tree next to the feeder there, so it was a clean kill. Anyway, it's a good start. We've got 2 squirrels now, and we've been here for less than an hour. Well, that squirrel was very, very edgy, and I think it was more than likely spooked by the dead ones. And as you'll see, it didn't really want to settle by the feeder. It ended up going up the tree. I was actually a bit worried that it was just going to keep on going and clear off, so I gave it a quick squeak just to stop it from going any further up the tree, and just got on and took the shot. And there's another one. You can see the appeal of this feeder, the way these squirrels are coming into it. And it's like I said at the outset, that drum of grain has got pretty much just as much appeal as one of my usual feeding stations. The only difference being is that somebody else is paying to keep it topped up. Now, yeah, you could argue that it hasn't got the same attraction as peanuts, but in cold weather like this, that grain has a huge appeal to these squirrels, as this is proving. Now, bear with me, because I need to crane up here to see over the high carpet of ivy, because when I'm hitting these squirrels, they're kind of flopping down beneath it, some of them. So I just want to check that one was a clean kill, which it is. And I'm not at all surprised. Now, this gun, it is sub 12 foot-pounds, but it's a 2.2. I'm shooting at about 25 metres, and it is hitting them like a sledgehammer. Another slightly spooked looking squirrel there, and I wasn't going to hang around to see if it was going to settle under the feeder. I didn't want to risk it clearing off, and I think what is certainly happening now is we're getting quite an accumulation of dead squirrels there. There's a couple there. When that one turned up, there were a couple at the foot of the tree, the other 2 that have slumped down behind that high carpet of ivy, and I think that must look pretty unsettling to squirrels that are turning up to feed. I am going to make that the last one now. We've been here for about 3 hours. I need to have a stretch. Also, it's a pretty cold day, and it must be perishing for Nikki hanging around with the camera. But I hope that I have demonstrated how effective targeting squirrels at these pheasant feeders can be. Now, I've talked about the fact that they're here anyway, and that somebody else is footing the bill of keeping them topped up, and that gamekeeper certainly isn't going to want squirrels taking the feed. So some keepers may be reluctant for you to hang around and shoot around their feeders during the pheasant shooting season, but there are plenty that will be more than grateful for your help controlling grey squirrels now that their shooting has drawn to a close. Well, it's got mega long range potential in its high power, guys, but I think that goes to show that the FX Panthera can also cut it on live quarry in its sub 12 variant. Next up, let's take a look at the Crosman Icon from Range Right. What I have here is a PCP airgun from Crosman. Now it's the Icon and it's supplied in the UK by Range Right. Now what's most distinctive about this PCP is that it comes supplied with open sights, but it also represents brilliant value for money, retailing for just £299. At about 98 centimetres long, it is quite a substantially sized airgun, but I still think that younger shooters will find it to be manageable, and in fact, its handling should be absolutely fine for teenagers. Also, its tough synthetic stock helps to keep the weight down, and it tips the scales at just a shade under 3.3 kilos before you fit a scope. The stock is ambidextrous and it's quite futuristic in its styling. Now it's also very functional. The forend is nice and long, so there's plenty of room for your leading hand, no matter what hold style you opt for, and it's also grooved and stippled, so it is very grippy. The pistol grip is really well designed. Now it's also stippled and its contours fill the hand really comfortably. Now, smaller shooters may find it a bit of a reach to the trigger, but I found it absolutely fine. I really like its steep rake, and for my hands, it gave terrific trigger attack. In an ideal world, I would probably have appreciated a slightly higher cheek piece with more forward support. But that said, I still managed to get decent eye alignment, whether using the open sights or a scope. Now the stock is then finished with a chunky rubber butt pad which has really deep grooves and feels very good in the shoulder. Back to those open sights, which obviously mean that you don't have to splash out on a telescopic sight to start shooting with this airgun. Now the front element is a post and it features a green fibre optic, and typical of most open sights, you align that with the notch in the rear element. Now these open sights are adjustable for both windage and elevation. It's a tool-free job and the dials turn with nice clear stops. I had great fun using the open sights on my garden range, but this airgun is accurate enough to warrant getting yourself a set of tellies, and it is equipped with a dovetail rail for their attachment. Now you will probably want to remove the rear sight element to make room for your scope, and that is easily done by fully unscrewing the elevation dial and then removing it to expose the fastening screws. Right, so by the magic of video, I now have a scope fitted. As you can see, the Icon's scope rail is fairly short, but that said, I've got a pretty large scope on here and it's accommodated it comfortably. Now another thing you need to be aware of is that you use mounts that are high enough to keep the scope clear of the magazine. Now thankfully the mag doesn't actually stand that far proud of the rail. The magazine is a 10 shot on the 2.2 caliber test gun, and the Icon also comes supplied with a single shot tray. Now loading the magazine is very easy. You simply push a pellet in through the hole on the side of the clear faceplate. You then rotate the inner drum to expose the next chamber, push a pellet into there and continue rotating and pushing in pellets until it's full. The magazine is driven by a side bolt action which takes care of indexing, cocking and reloading. It's a very positive action and it's been absolutely reliable during the weeks that I've been testing this gun. It's certainly given me a lot of fun on the plinking range. Now the magazine also features a shot counter so you can keep an eye on how many pellets you've got left as you work your way through it. The Icon has a 500mm barrel and that incorporates a retainer which also serves as the attachment for the rear open sight. Now I've got to say the muzzle report is a bit snappy without a silencer fitted, but should you want to fit one, either for hunting or to quieten it down for some discreet backyard plinking, that's easily done by screwing off the muzzle cap to reveal a thread for silencer attachment. The trigger blade is a fairly simple, gently curved design with a grooved face. Now, the two-stage mechanism is actually adjustable, but as I've said before, I think that review guns should be tested in the state that they leave the factory. Now, I've got to say that I wasn't exactly expecting match trigger type performance from a sub £300 PCP, but actually I was pretty impressed with this one. The first stage is quite deep with some reassuring resistance, but it then comes to a pretty clear stop and it breaks crisply and predictably. Now, I do prefer safety catches that are positioned away from the trigger, so this one is a little bit close for my liking. That said, it's very easy to reach and it does what it's supposed to do. It's safe when it's pulled back into the rearward position, and then you have to simply push it forwards to knock it off when you're ready to take the shot. The test gun is producing a solid muzzle energy of around 11.7 foot-pounds. Now, as for consistency, variation was about 11 feet per second over a string of 10 shots. Now, that is double figures, but it isn't bad when you consider this airgun's price point. The Icon is equipped, as you can see, with a long, elegant air cylinder, and refilling is via a Foster connector beneath the cap at its front. Maximum fill pressure is stated as 3000 psi, which translates to a bit more than 200 bar. Now, from that you can expect about 65 shots per fill in .22 caliber and about 55 in 177. Your remaining air reserves are displayed on a gauge that's neatly sunken into the underside of the stock. Accuracy-wise, this airgun gave a decent account of itself, especially considering its asking price. For plinking, it will flip spinners and topple knockdowns out to 40 metres and with impressive consistency. Now, I would also say that it's got the power and precision to tackle small pests as long as you are sensible with your ranges. Now, obviously, paper targets are the truest way to measure an airgun's accuracy potential. And this gun was printing 5-shot groups that could be covered by a 10p piece out to 25 metres. So that's the Crosman Icon. It's a decent PCP for under £300. It's also pretty tidily finished, and its build quality feels tough enough to stand up to some pretty heavy use. Now, considering this airgun's price point, it really is hard to find fault with it, and I think that plenty of shooters are going to find it to be a great first PCP. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for in this week's episode. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. It's absolutely free, and subscribing means you won't miss a single episode. And also do check out those subscription offers that we've got for Airgunner and Airgun World magazines. You can see details of them in the show description. Enjoy your shooting and stay safe.